Good evening and welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting of, today is October 7th, 2024. We're here in Memorial Hall and Town Hall. This is our 10th meeting of fiscal 2025. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location posted in the agenda, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link in the posted agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28, Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Westborough TV, and we thank them for their help. Okay, good evening. Tonight we have, I guess, six members present, so we have more than a quorum, and we will get right to it. Seeing no one here for public comment, we'll go into some discussion on some of the articles that are still in play. First up, I would say, is the non-union compensation study, the $9,000 out of free cash used, that Christie spoke about last time. Is there any discussion on that ahead of a vote? No, don't see much. Okay, why don't you make a motion for that?
McMahon, I move to recommend the town vote to transfer $9,000 from free cash for the purpose of funding compensation study, non-union compensation study.
A second? Andrew's not here. Somebody
Clap
else
second.
step up here. Very good. Okay, today is 10. So, okay, this one is Article 6 in the warrant, and it is coming from free cash. All right, we have a thing in a motion. Is there any further discussion? If not, let's vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? I see 6-0-0.
So, no Beth,
Yeah, I guess that's the
no Brownlee, no Brand. Okay. All right.
6-0-0. Okay. Okay. Next, I would skip Article 8 because we're not going to vote that because we do not know if it's necessary, and we will vote that at town meeting should it be needed and not passed over. But we'll vote for it at town meeting either way because there'll be some motion or another either to pass over or not. Article 9. Community Center Project Design. Tomorrow night at the Select Board meeting, there will be a presentation by the architects. Afterwards, we will be getting the slide deck from that. I'll be able to email that to you. But obviously with Westborough TV, you don't have to watch it tomorrow night, but please watch it before Thursday. I think Christie plans on coming on Thursday as well to answer any questions or things. So we'll get more information on that as well. So it does not make sense to do it, but if there's anybody that wants to generally discuss it, or we can just wait till we see the latest information. So that makes sense to me. Everybody good? Okay, so that's Article 9. Article 10, the golf club building. I think we're in a position to vote. That is a $450,000 borrow, and we have a resident expert from the Municipal Building Committee with us. So let's start with any discussion. I understand you're going to have some more meetings on this topic as well.
Yeah, that would be my only concern. The number was presented by Christie, but it wasn't voted on by the Municipal Building Committee. And I'm not sure we should
Are you,
vote before they do.
wait, so this would be when we vote at town meeting then, because I think your meeting is after our next meeting. Your
Yeah.
municipal building
Yep.
committee.
Yep.
Okay. So we can just not put it in the book, and it means we probably have to if we're gonna have several of these, we're gonna have to make sure we get there early enough to discuss and vote those.
Do we have don't we have a meeting, let me look at the dates.
Well, we could meet on the 17th, but I think that's when your meeting is, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had the possibility of Thursday the 17th as a meeting, which we might decide to do if we have all these other things. There's several people who aren't able to make that, I know, so. Well, but you're not making town meeting anyway, so either, right?
No, I can't make the
Yeah.
17th, and I cannot make the 12th.
Okay, so that was what I was remembering, but maybe someone else said that too.
So,
When is your meeting, Rod? The next, you know?
A week from Thursday.
Oh, but you do it in the morning.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
could meet in
8
theory a
a.m.
week and Thursday at night, or even do a remote meeting if we want. Oh, well, put that aside for now. We can decide that probably Thursday night.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I guess the question for me is, I think it makes sense to have funds to explore this further. It's not clear which exact path you'll take, but I think I trust that committee enough that if they decide to do less than what's in this full thing, they would do it and not, spend the money.
That's kind of where my head's at right now. I mean, I think the biggest question is, can we come up with a design that will pay for itself through the restaurant lease? And if we don't, what does that mean? And, I have confidence in the committee not to go too far down a lane. And I think, it's important to keep the project moving. So I think
So
that's where we're
I
at.
think the two possibilities I think that might do that are either a scaled back, we have some food for golfers kind of place, and your pro shop and your, what's the other name? Pro shop, and they just need a space to actually business, office,
Right,
whatever.
right.
And that probably could fit within the budget, I would hope. Or I heard they were talking also about potentially you lease the property to a private company and they lease back us the space for the pro shop, basically. In which case, they'd be responsible for building the building. It seems like the basic plan of the two-story thing is way more money than you could ever pay for out of part of this
Right.
consultant is to help you decide that, right?
So I think the question in my mind, and it's interesting, not that I have a broad audience that I've talked to about, but, is the golf club restaurant a community benefit that the community would be willing to pay additional taxes for?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been giving a lot of thought to this, and I want to know if possibly the circle can be drawn a little wider. Is the golf club something that this town needs to run, like the whole chalupa? And I have a lot behind that, but I didn't know if the conversation about us selling the golf course, us getting out of the golf course business, because I believe, I haven't heard any way that it directly benefits the town beyond a place for recreation, but we're not taking that away. We're just taking away ownership and management of that. But has there been any serious conversation or consideration as to why we should keep it? We're a town.
But, I don't know why you asked Rod, he's on the building committee.
Well, I didn't know if it was
I
part
think
of
you'd
the
have to
plan.
ask recreation people,
Yeah.
and it's a tangential topic, but it's not,
unless the conversation happened in terms of as one of the considerations, that maybe there was value given to why we would not want to sell it as we thought about what to do with the building. I mean,
I think,
I mean,
I mean.
I was
you're a
going to say,
golfer.
it's been a while. My understanding is that was a consideration, it might have been 20 years ago now, selling the golf club, and the town decided that it was something that they wanted to keep. But I don't know that is something that's being considered now. But I also wanted to point out that your assumption that if you sell the golf course, that the golf course remains as a
Golf course.
place to play golf for the town or recreate in some way
Yep.
is flawed, deeply flawed.
no, if that was, as a single point of observation, yes, you are
Yeah.
right. But like I said, there's a lot that I've thought about for this,
Yeah,
very much
yeah.
to that point. But
Right.
no, that's a point.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask, and what's really got me to this point, there's two big things that come down, and I'll be very quick. Number one, when you talk about selling property, one of the key pieces is multiples of value of what it's bringing in, and we are at a very rare moment. It's going to come around every 40 or 50 years where we're talking about a restaurant, a facility, a pro shop, golf, the whole thing. There's like a major opportunity here that's bigger than just what we bring in as a golf course. Like, this is somebody who has an enterprising spirit about this can be looking at this as something that they can take on the burden. So which gets me to the second point, which is that, especially as we talk about the financing of this, there is no financial upside to the town if we're going to keep all of the money cloistered within the golf course, which is where it has been. But again, we're a town, we're not a country club, and I think there are ways you can zone in districts so you can ensure that it stays certain things potentially. Again, that's something to be examined. But it seems that we're at a rare moment where we could get more for the golf course and the building than we could at just about any other time if we'd asked this question a year ago or a year from now. So.
And this goes way beyond my expertise, but I don't think 9-hole golf courses are selling at any great premium these days. And the ones that are selling are the ones that have home lots around them, and obviously we don't have that.
You're
So-
right, and they come at a risk, which
Yeah.
is at this moment is a risk this town is carrying for golf.
But I think the town is doing well right now, having a 9-hole golf course that does a little more than break even. So I think a developer doesn't want to run a golf course to break even. So either it may,
But they would like the land to develop.
yeah, right. It may be the only way to have a golf course right now in town. A 9-hole golf course is to have the town run it.
And at a time we're talking about places we can sensibly cut or not add risk or carry costs. And at the moment, since it's paying for itself, 100%, if it's just the golf course. But we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars here, that we're not talking about investing, potential restaurants, a lot of different variables. And we as a town are carrying a risk for something that is a golf course in the end. As a town, golf
Yeah.
course, town.
Yeah. No, it depends on what the town sees the value of the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 holes of open land that's being used for recreation.
Open space.
For golf.
So, yeah, anyway, I'd like to get off that topic. It's just we need
It's
to
kinda
focus on
interesting,
the article more.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I don't think there's a real value to the town of having that restaurant as a restaurant. There are plenty of other restaurants and opportunities to have restaurants. I think it's more value that you have some space in there for the golfers, because I understand they like having snacks after golfing for 2 to 4 hours or whatever, and that makes sense. And, to me, a small pub-like thing makes sense, more sense than a fancy restaurant. I think people were enamored with Civic Kitchen, but the building was always terrible. The bar was kind of nice and the outdoor deck, but we used to have meetings there. It was, anyway. I don't think there's a shortage of restaurants in the area.
Good restaurants.
Well, what makes you think this one necessarily would be good? I mean, it's
I mean-
no different than any other restaurant that could move in you know, anywhere, any place. It's kind of, it has to be really good, be successful, because it's not in a, it's off the beaten path. It's, you know, out on Route 30 through horrific traffic to get to.
Well, and I think the reality is that the cost is going to be so high that their lease payment would have to be so high, or we're going to have to subsidize it. And I think that's,
Well, and that's where I'll get to
So-
Andrew's point, is I'm not really interested in subsidizing building a restaurant.
nor am I.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah, Gene?
So to bring it back to the warrant, though, that's what the warrant is asking for money to study. So really the question is, do you want to spend the money to study that question, or do you want to just decide?
But so I would argue $500,000 to study that question is a lot.
Which may be.
And
but-
that's where I'm hung up on it.
But rather
It
than
seems like
us
a lot.
speculating about what the result of the study would
That-
be,
You're right.
It's not just that question, though. The question is, what can you build that
Yeah.
would be self-sustaining?
right, but
That's the
rather than
question
us
I wanna-
speculate on the answer to that,
Yeah.
what the warrant is asking is, do you want to spend the money to do
To
the
answer
study
that
to get the
question.
answer?
Yeah.
Like, we
I
can
thi-
speculate
I
on the
think I-
answer all we want.
So, yeah, okay, but my point of view is, you're gonna have to do something for the
Yep.
pro shop, and it's probably a good idea to have something with some amount of amenities, in order to keep the golf course self-sustaining, to make it a little nicer. And so I would like to invest at least enough money to find out what that would be, but I am interested in the self-sustaining part.
Right.
And, and not the more grandiose ones.
But we don't have to speculate. We have a history of having a restaurant on those premises.
No,
And, I mean, the Civic Kitchen was there, so we have
they
a
didn't pay
history.
anything for rent.
Yeah.
So-
Exactly. I mean,
But that's not the history.
but
not the future.
why didn't we ask them to pay rent?
They pay very little because they got a good deal and they were supposed to maintain the building, is my understanding.
Yeah. But the building now has to be replaced, so the deal wasn't that great. I mean, my point is, we had a history of having a restaurant on the golf course, and it didn't work out. Here, we are going to invest a substantial amount of money into a study for a project that the town really doesn't need and doesn't bring economic benefit to the taxpayers.
I think you have to be careful. It's not just the study. That is enough money to do a full,
Yeah.
complete design to biddable documents. So if they were going to study this smaller thing and even design this smaller thing, it wouldn't come out to be that much money. Be a lot less. So you're gonna have to do something with the property.
Right.
The problem is, if we say, sure, spend $500,000, and the committee says, you know what would be really great? This massive, huge plan with the subsidy, and they spend the money on something that already is so far off of what I think is reasonable, then they're gonna come back and say, oh, well, that smaller version that makes sense, that's not what we designed, so now we're gonna need more money to do that. Not to say that's what's going to happen, or that I don't have faith in this group, but that's what we've allowed for, and that's where I get a little hung up on, like, we've agreed to their discretion.
But
I mean, I could tell from your face, you're like, oh, that's not what would happen, and it probably, but I don't know that.
I'm with you, because while I'm actually comfortable with this project, I have that hesitance with the community center
So I have the
project.
same problem with both of them, for the same reason, and because I can't agree to one and not the other, because I fundamentally have the same challenge with both, I wanna know what you're designing.
Yeah,
I mean, at least to some reasonable scope and scale. I mean, I don't know how we do that, right? There's sort of the cart before the chicken and the egg problem, right? Like, until we design it, we don't know, and we don't, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't like
the
it.
committee could come up and say, we want $100,000 just to study this question.
yeah, I mean, I think the point is, we could get to that answer without spending $450,000. I think part of the difficulty is, you know, with the special town meeting and the fall town meeting,
Yeah.
you lose 6 months towards getting something done, and.
So it is possible to call special
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yeah. For the-
But that has a
Extra
cost
special.
itself.
right.
Andrew?
So the
Sure,
400,000 is sort of monolithic. Is it possible to figure out potentially, if we agreed that that answering the question was more important than starting the bid designs, is it possible that we could understand what that slice up looks like and we could vote to support the analysis but not the bid designs?
I think we could. I think the only danger is losing 6 months. So if there's not enough confidence to go forward, then I think that's realistic.
Please
Well,
define danger.
actually, though, so the the warrant's closed.
Mhm.
So you couldn't,
You can reduce the amount.
by that much?
Oh, you can
We as a
reduce it to
committee could
$10.
recommend
You
any
can't
amount we
increase it by
want.
double.
This is our
Okay.
recommendation.
Somebody
so-
coming town meeting is
Right, but our
expecting that they're gonna talk
recommendation-
about a bigger number. If it's smaller, that's
Right.
okay. I'll
I
let
thought there was
John's
still a
on the
scope.
line, but that's generally the scope would be, a subset of this would be in scope, I think. But, John, do you have any comments? Maybe you can't hear us. Okay. So.
We'll
I think
relay
that would
the
be- So I guess.
Finance Committee's feedback, which in my mind is, one, we don't want to go forward with a project that can't finance itself. Two, we'd rather find that out sooner than
I mean,
spend
as a straw
$450,000.
poll, I haven't heard anybody who thought that it'd be a good idea to invest the town's money in beyond what could be sustained.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so yes,
Okay.
I mean.
We as a committee are not interested in subsidizing a restaurant.
Right.
We would love a new restaurant. I would love a beautiful fancy golf course. I want someone else to build it.
So, I mean, I think, and it's my sense
I
of
want to do a
watching your
P3.
committee
We can own it,
meetings that
someone
I
else can
think
build it.
a lot of that committee feels the same way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the committee has stated that.
Hmm.
The town manager stated that.
Okay.
But we'll still have to make a recommendation on Article 10.
We'll either make a recommendation at town meeting or on the 10th, and we just say we'll make a recommendation.
Right.
It'll be in the book printed that we'll make our recommendation at town meeting. So we're still discussing it. I mean, to be fair, these, like you said, they're both sort of, both projects are suffering from not a pure, here's what we're gonna do and how we're gonna get done kind of things, right? So it's not surprising that it's hard for us to decide, right?
Yeah.
I think we all feel that way. And we could make a comment to that, but we might as well just wait.
Well, and to that end, I think that they're going to get a lot of questions from residents at the meeting with the same sort of questions and concerns that we have. And so if they can address our concerns more proactively, then maybe we cut down on that potentially lengthy debate on town meeting floor on a Monday night when everyone wants to go home.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get some of this conversation done up front.
Okay. So we will, for now, we'll rediscuss on Thursday night after we see oh, sorry, that's the other presentation. I don't think we're getting a presentation on this, but we can revisit this Thursday, and then sort of decide, whether you all want to meet, whether remotely or in person on the 17th, after Rod will have had one more building committee meeting. And we'll know at least the direction they're planning on going, or whatever because you got to vote for something, right, at that meeting? And then, or we could wait till I was going to say Saturday morning because I'm used to the other meeting, but for the Monday night, we just have to get there early enough to get whatever votes we're leaving over. Okay. So let's talk on Thursday how we want to approach, because there could be two of these that need further discussion. So it may be worth having that extra meeting or not. Okay, the next one we can talk about is the article with the BWAL easements. It's down to one piece of property, which is, I think, an Amazon property. We were holding off to see what happened, and nothing really changed that much on it, other than the number of
places. It still has the eminent domain, but there's no money, and so I think the motion will mean if they do say or eminent domain, they're gonna need a 2/3 majority as well. So I don't know if anybody has any further
So what,
comments.
what happened to the other properties that were on the?
So it turns out they were already done at a previous town meeting, but the confusion, I think, was this concern by to have that option in their pocket of supposed, like, at that town meeting, the words eminent domain was taken out of the thing, which I suspect will happen possibly or probably, I don't know how you want to phrase it, at this meeting. And I think then she originally started and didn't realize that that those were, so they came off because they're already granted. If a problem comes up, they'll deal with the problem. I don't know that there's a problem coming up. That was how it was explained to me. And so this is a new one that wasn't voted, I think it was 2 years ago or whenever we did that last time. And so this is an additional property, so that's why it's still here.
And this is
And
the-
you'll notice, sorry.
This is the Amazon property.
One more thing, no, maybe
No?
it isn't.
It's nearby.
Oh.
This is actually interesting because the reason it's been renamed not the B-Wall, and I have to change my little list there. It's called a trail easement because this particular property, I think the trail runs near it, not actually on it or something. This is like, it's another.
It's a spur.
Yeah, or something. I don't fully understand where it is, and they'll probably explain it to us at some point. But that's why it now says trail easement, because I don't think it says, 50 Otis Street, so that's probably one of the first Amazon buildings. Do you know the number Cold Harbor is?
No, I think this is the one with the pyramid.
This is the one all
What
the
is
way
the
down
address for
there.
this one?
Yeah, this one
50
is
Office Street.
Amazon
To be honest,
Robotics.
so it might just get you into the back of the,
Yeah, that's where the pyramid is.
there was some
Hakamal.
interest in getting the back of
Hakamak.
Hakamalko Pond so you could hike around the outside or something. So maybe this is that, and it's not actually anything to do with the B-Wall. So I'm not sure why they would ever need
Eminent domain.
that to be eminent domain. I just don't get the whole thing. So, I don't know what we want to do. What are other people's thoughts?
I would probably still vote no with eminent domain in there.
Yeah, I don't think it meets sort of my personal criteria for the use of eminent domain. I get why they want to include it, but I wouldn't want to execute it if that were the case, so.
Compensation costs, et cetera.
All right, well, and we can write it up as our reason. If that's our objection, that's certainly a fine one. We don't have an objection to them giving us a piece
No.
of property for use of a trail. I think it's a great thing. I just don't see why, I'm sure this attorney is doing what he thinks is in the best interest of the town, but I think he's a little out of touch with what happened last time, is people don't really want to do an eminent domain for something like this, especially this, which is now just down to being a trail. It doesn't disrupt the entire B-Wall, so you have everything but one little piece. Any other thoughts?
I'm not nearly as concerned as the rest of the committee
Yeah.
about the eminent domain.
Because I
I
don't
don't know
think they
why.
can. Well,
I
Don't know why we are or
it
why
sounds
you are.
evil, but they actually,
both. I mean, I understand it.
they actually
sounds evil,
couldn't
but-
do it because they'd need money, so they'd have to come
Right,
back
no, I
to town
understand.
meeting.
Yeah, no,
So
I
I'm
understand that.
comfortable with the fact that they couldn't do it as
Without
well.
coming back to town meeting, but,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Unless they
know,
conjured up funds some other way, but
I
I don't
can-
think they can.
like Jane, I can understand why you would want the option there. And, you know, this is a case where my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, is that the owners want to give us this easement. So it's probably not gonna be used, and if it is ever gonna be used, they would have to come back to town meeting and we decide, can they use it or can't they use it?
Well, but I don't think they would
So I'm not
have to. We've
concerned.
already said that they could, right? So
They don't have any funding.
so that you are right. So that would be the one thing that we haven't allocated any funds for that use of eminent
Right.
domain. But what if you had other funds? I mean, I guess that you'd be pretty limited in terms of the funds you could
guess I'm
use,
still
right?
not
You'd
that
have to have a
concerned.
revolving fund, right? Maybe you're going to pay, right? Like,
Yes,
in order to get something you don't need.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so it's pretty unlikely. I mean, I guess it's a valid point. But if we're not planning on using eminent domain, we could take it out and we could still utilize, same as we did last time. We still have access, we still have all of those easements. We just don't have eminent domain if there's a transfer of title in the future.
So
I mean,
I guess we could also, can we make a recommendation that the word eminent domain, like basically make a amendment?
yeah, you might want to mute that.
Walter, can you hear me?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, hang on.
Scott.
I was unable to get my computer audio connected, so I had to call in. So first thing I wanted to mention was that I have a feeling that the motion is not going to include eminent domain. So as you just noted, you may want to just say that the committee does not does not recommend a motion that includes eminent domain. Because unless you've heard otherwise, typically articles just have all that verbiage because people like to have all their options open. And so remember the difference between the actual article and the motion, and I at least haven't heard anything that would indicate that the motion is going to include eminent domain. So I think one option for this would be to either withhold your vote until you hear what the motion is, or to just have a recommendation that says the committee does not recommend a vote in favor unless the action is to not include eminent domain, or to tidy that up so it's not too many negatives.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. We have heard from from Jenny in Conservation that this was something they wanted to include. And even though.
Yeah, but they probably meant included in the warrant article, not in the motion. I mean, this is the problem we always have with the fact that motions don't show up till later. Oh, they said they wanted in the motion?
That
yeah,
was my impression.
Yep.
yep.
So I think
Okay.
your solution.
Well, in that case, you made some fun.
Yeah, so, and that would require 2/3 then. But,
Yes.
I mean, we could make a motion that we are uncomfortable supporting this and with the words, or we could,
I mean, we should vote it,
we would vote it
down,
normally
and-
first. I'm
yeah.
I'm trying to,
and then it would just be as
Okay.
part of the statement,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
we could vote it down and then as part of the statement say we'd support it without the use of eminent domain.
Right,
Yeah, yeah. So something, I think that might be the best way to actually have it so everybody's
then
clear
if
that it's not the
if
project itself, it's the eminent domain that's the issue.
And if the motion didn't, well, no matter what, if the motion didn't, we can revote.
right.
Right.
Floor.
Right, yeah, you could quickly revote, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Is everybody happy with that approach? Happy enough? Yeah, Andy?
My misgiving now of this, although I'm really not that worried about the eminent domain, many of the same reasons Gene mentioned, but like, I guess now that this is just a decoupled little path in the middle of, nice path, sure. Like, that to me, the town has really said that that's, I don't know, supporting our bigger goal. The B-Walt obviously is much more wide-ranging. Like, why are we focusing on little straight paths at this point? I don't know.
I think it might be viewed as a connection to the train station through the.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Instead of
there's
the around.
utility then?
Oh, yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Okay.
It connects to the trails around the
tool, okay.
pond and, yeah.
Okay.
But I think you'd have to get to there from basically Otis Street. And right now which would be through this property.
Right,
It's probably next to the left side of the building or something.
yeah, no, I'm sure, yeah,
It gets you into those trails.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's value to it.
Thank you.
And the reason I don't like voting it, the reason I don't like voting it down particularly is it'd be a nice gift to have, but I think their approach is a little strange, so I'm very willing to support it without the eminent domain, I guess. I'm a little on the fence about the other thing.
So are we comfortable with the original motion to be against? Seems like.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Are we ready for a motion?
Sure, so we're gonna do a motion to recommend the town.
Yep.
vote against.
McMahon, I move to recommend the town vote against authorizing the select board to acquire 50 Otis Street as written in Article 15.
Clap second.
So are we making a motion not to go for it, or
Correct.
recommending the
We're making a motion to recommend the town vote against this.
against this, not to update this? To
We
remove
have
it?
no power to update it.
Recommend. It's a recommendation.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, your power to update it would be, you could, once the motion is given on town meeting floor, make a motion to amend it.
Yeah,
Which
amend
any
it.
citizen could, or this board could, or it's probably less sensible for us to do it than someone else.
Right.
Um,
I mean, we did make that recommendation and they said no.
Yeah, we made our recommendation.
Yeah, we already made a recommendation that they pull it and
So,
they said,
and if they
thank you for your
want
comments,
to
we
remove
reviewed
it,
it.
then
No,
they
thank you.
would re-vote. Well, I'm assuming the result, but we'd have to get, we should do the vote, because then
Right.
it might be a moot point.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, this is a motion that we're going to recommend to defeat this article.
Sound like John Arnold if we go, a vote in favor of this article will be to not recommend it.
Right.
A vote against will just
Yes,
channeling my inner John.
okay, well, you did good. Prashant?
No?
It's we're all here.
Oh, it's all, okay, sorry. All in favor of the motion to recommend to defeat the article, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Because we have
Yep.
7 now, right?
Yep.
All opposed? 1. Anybody abstaining? No. Okay, so that was 7.
610.
So, good, see, that's why you're here. 610.
That's why Walter
Good.
counts out loud.
McMahon, no, and there's 3 people not here. Okay, and.
There's 2 people not here.
Oh, yeah, because Bradley's here now.
Bradley's here.
Yeah, you were here for the first one.
Sorry about that.
We voted the non-union study in your absence. Okay, so, and the statement we want to make in there is we're uncomfortable with the inclusion of eminent domain in the motion. If the motion does not include eminent domain, we will revote our recommendation on town meeting floor. Does that sound good?
Yep.
And do you want to bother saying? what, then
I
vote?
mean, if you
It
think it's
wasn't a big deal.
necessary, I
No.
could put something in, but it
I don't think
doesn't
it's
seem necessary.
Okay. It's less
But if you
tight.
want, you can say Gene doesn't care about.
Gene's not worried about eminent domain.
Yeah,
He hopes it's.
Make sure you
no,
call him out
it's
by
like
name,
Gene
though.
hopes-
it's not my address.
Gene hopes it's eminent. Screw those bastards. They didn't deliver my socks on time for Christmas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, the next article, amend bylaws. I have some information which I did not send out. So I'm going to bring that up if I can figure out how to share it again. Share. Oh, red line. Okay, very good. Okay, so the one thing that we're missing, I'll try to make this bigger, apologize for not sending this ahead. But when I mentioned last time was the planning board was going to include changes that were given to them from the Affordable Housing Trust and then vote whether they were in favor of this or not at their last October 1st meeting. They did, and so I'm going to show you what those changes are because Jenny was able to provide that to me.
And so these are the changes that's in red. You can see what they changed. Okay, and then, so the article that you have in the warrant, the final warrant, is what, with this stuff changed. And they changed this to 120% AMI. That was it. Now there was maybe one more change. And then it gave examples of where the fund could be donated to. So that was all the changes from when we reviewed it. Oh, and lost the word first in right of refusal. Okay, so that's that. At least was closer to having an understanding of what the differences were. So it wasn't substantial change. And the article is therefore what's in our warrant. So, any opinions, discussion? Article 17.
So the point I made earlier, which I still think I would state and believe, is that starting at 10 units is too restrictive. And although this is better than what we had before, I'm going for best. So I would start it at 20.
So would you vote to recommend the town not support this?
Right.
Because it doesn't go far enough.
It goes too far.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't go far enough, right? Because
Well-
it is decreasing, it is raising the
Right,
number,
it's
but not raising it enough, so it doesn't go
Right,
far
yeah.
enough.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to that end though, you made the point with the golf course, where we have 6 months before we can have this conversation again. Does it make sense to wait 6 months to take a larger step? Or does it make sense to, well, let me rethink that question. Would you have a number you would suggest, right? So if they were to modify the bylaw to say 20,
Yep.
would you vote for it
Yes,
with only that change?
yes.
So then would it be reasonable? See, and so that's what I'm wondering, because that's a change you could make on the floor. As opposed to voting.
And maybe he will.
Right.
I'm calm
You
this
done?
year.
You done?
But I think that's
Maybe
No
the
more
thing.
rod, no more rod. Have to
Maybe
go with
someone
the
else will.
committee.
No more Rodman newspaper?
We spare the rod.
But I do think that that very specific pointed feedback is worth giving, because if your objection is not with the changes, but with a number within the changes, we don't want to do nothing.
Right.
We would rather push for,
No.
make that 10-20, and someone, apparently not Rod, could propose that change. I just think that's an
I don't have a problem
important.
with the 10 myself, but I think it could certainly be part of the message that.
Well, and that's
can
what I
tell.
really was getting at, right? Is
Right.
our comment could very specifically say
Right.
that
Oh, yeah.
we, the dissenters, feel that 20 would be a more appropriate number and would be in support.
I just
if
think
it were.
20 is a pretty large.
I made
development
up
in
20,
Westborough.
just to be clear.
No, I know.
But he didn't. 20 is his
really.
number.
Oh, is that the number that you?
That's his
yeah,
number.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So I made it up.
So
I didn't
I-
realize
No,
it
he's
was
been talking
actually
about
your
20
number.
since they came to visit.
So
Yeah.
the Gray House development
subliminally
on Mount Pleasant is like 23 houses or something. That's huge. I mean, it's not, that's where.
I don't disagree with
Yeah.
you, but there are others who would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just making my point.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think that even.
Well, don't forget
like,
it's-
how many houses are on like the new one off Glen? That could be about 10, right?
But they also round down, right? So 8 would mean 1,
No.
not 2, right?
8 means
Because
none
it's
right now.
20%. Sorry. Well, no, now it's
Right now, at
lower.
5, you have,
Right.
5 or more, 5 to 10, you have to do 1.
Right. So, yeah. So now 8 would mean 1. With the new rule, it would mean none. But 16 would still be,
None with the new rule, and
well, the new rule
1
is
with the-
10.
With the old rule.
Right. No, the new
no.
rule is 10.
Yeah, the new rule would be 1, if you had 16.
Yeah. So it's still, I mean, even at 10, it doesn't seem like a lot, right? Because there's all the way up to 20, you're still not rounding up to another unit. Sorry, I really just had to walk through that in
You're trying to
my.
encourage
What?
development, and
Right.
that makes it more expensive, obviously,
Right.
for
I
the
mean,
developer to
So
do that.
if you do 20, if you do 10, you have to have 2, right? And if you do 20, you have to do 4.
But if you do 19, you have to do 3. Because you can go right up to, right. Right, 1 out of every 5, but until you hit that 5th
Right,
one.
right.
Yeah. I'm going to get the argument. But 20 is, I agree, 20 is a lot. 20 is a big development.
The whole golf course.
They get 40.
Yeah, that would be more than 20.
40.
That'd be hundreds. Okay, anybody else discussion? We could put a motion in play and see where we get, and then we can discuss, or we can discuss before we vote.
Bylaw motions. McMahon, I move to recommend the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws for inclusionary zoning as written in Article 17 of the warrant.
Bradley, second.
Okay, any further discussion? Oh, we're all here. Okay, sorry, I was waiting for somebody to say. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 1. Nobody abstaining? Okay, so that passes 6-1-0. And Rod, can you write me a short little thing?
Sure.
Something for why it's a good idea not to vote in favor? That would be great. Okay. All right. I think that's all we can vote. So, to summarize, we now have Article 1, prior year's bills, which we expect to be a motion to pass over, and we will just wait until town meeting for that. We have Article 8, stormwater improvements, which we don't know what the motion will be until they get their bids later on. I think that's October 15th, so if we did want to do a 17th meeting, that's another one that we might know the number. Articles 9, the community center, which we're going to get more information on at tomorrow night's meeting with the select board anyway, and then see where we go. And Article 10, the golf building meeting, where we're hoping to get more feedback from the municipal building committee before we vote. And we have now voted everything other than that, so we're in good shape. Okay, so next I would like to talk about the draft message.
I just had one question
Sure.
on when
Sorry.
Chris Payant was here about the drainage article. The stormwater drainage, and we had asked if he would.
Stormwater improvements?
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
asked if he would consider changing that to the previous version where it went go into effect.
Oh,
Prior.
that was the stormwater erosion bylaw.
Right,
And as far as I know, it hasn't changed.
right.
I can check with him again, but I.
We did ask the question. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
and
was-
then when I looked at the warrant, it
Yeah.
hadn't changed, so I'm assuming that they were
That's-
gonna make their motion, so there wasn't a need to re-vote it at this point.
Yep.
Very good, okay. So, advisory finance narrative. Okay, so I sent this out to everybody. I don't yet have the numbers from John. It sounds like we'll be getting that in the next day or so I could fill that out. Has Rod pointed out a typo that I have since fixed, which was, I said, country club on the borrow instead. But I'm looking for feedback or information on content, stuff you want to include. Obviously, you can send me edits, and I didn't check it for double periods yet, Andrew, but I will. Sorry, double spaces before, after periods.
I simply don't know how to read it without that, so.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's still a draft. So most of the numbers aren't doing, but I'm looking for feedback on the message. The hardest part, I thought, to write was the look ahead to the March in 2026. And what we want to say as a group there. So, I don't know what you want to do. You want to, I don't know if people have read it. If you haven't read it, then I'm just saying I have to be done with this weekend. Well, we have to be done with the message by Thursday night so we can approve it all except for typos, basically. Unless you want to approve it where somebody could still change it as much as they want, which I doubt you do. So I do need, it's going to be feedback in the next day or so, or hold your peace, which is fine with me. Comments? Adam, before you go away, did you have any comments, or you can send me stuff?
No, I'm around until next week, so
Okay. Oh, good. So you'll be here Thursday.
I'll be here.
Great.
It's next Thursday. I cannot make it.
Excellent. All right. Okay. And also, as you read it, I mean, these numbers, I basically took kind of the type of numbers that we threw in the summary from last time. Most, they don't have to be there or not be there, so I'm open to feedback on that. I just started what we did. I tried to cut things down a little shorter, and kind of get things a little closer to where we are today.
There is a typo here. It says likely a level service for 2036 budget. So that the 36 part is a typo. But I was wondering, like, I don't disagree with your 6% increase number, but does John agree with that? We did ask him what it would be to roll forward, which is steps and COLA and all that.
I
But I don't
thought
think
they
we ever
mentioned
did.
that.
No, we sort of
About
back
that.
of the envelope did it. They
Yeah.
kind of did. I don't remember them saying that
can ask
out
him.
loud.
I mean,
That's
to
the only thing I
me,
would-
the
you know, like-
schools are basically going to be about a 6% increase.
I
in-
agree with you, that's the number. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Well, we could
Yeah, I don't think he sort of
say
formally
4 to
committed
7
it.
also. I mean, you know,
Right. No, I know.
I'm
That's just the
comfortable
one
with
thing
either.
I would
was just
say.
throwing
Yeah.
The reason I was sort of picking 6 is it's been sort of 6 for the last 3 years, sometimes closer to
Yes.
7,
I
and
just-
sometimes.
I
less.
agree with Jean, though. I mean, I feel like there's some level of the town is going to perceive this as much more formal, and while it does seem reasonable, we might want to run it past
But-
John first, just to.
Well, and yeah, probably Christie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. We usually have them check our numbers anyway.
Right.
We put in, but I'm still waiting for the numbers from them, so I'm trying not to.
Yeah,
distract
no, I
them.
understand. I just,
But I'm also happy with a range and saying 5 to 7. I mean, I think it's likely right now. It's hard to imagine how it wouldn't be at least 5 from the
I
changes we see.
agree, but I think we've seen that there are at least some
Well, the-
voters who
Well, the
would
other
be
thing-
shocked to hear you say that.
The other thing we could do is say it will yield another increase like the past 3 years that were this much, and then I don't have to predict the future.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's similar.
I think it's fine to include the number.
Oh.
I just suggesting we, you
Well,
get-
what am I gonna do if he's,
I don't understand. what
You
mean
could
checking.
say-
He's gonna say, no, it's gonna be 5.8, or he's gonna,
Or he could say, I
I
would
don't know
feel
what I'm
more
checking.
comfortable if you put a range of, but you could,
Right.
I don't dislike the idea of saying we're anticipating an increase similar to prior years. FY '24 had, FY '23 had, FY '22 had. I do like that idea. So we can say we're anticipating similar,
right.
but
think
not
that's good
publish a
enough.
number because people are gonna see that as a commitment.
Right.
People are gonna think that's the number.
Yeah.
Whether
Right.
that's what you say or not, as soon as you type in a number, everybody's gonna say, well, it was in the
And
book.
also, the contracts aren't even, are
Right.
just starting to negotiate.
Right.
so
But
the-
people aren't going to,
Yeah.
But then wouldn't just saying tax increase be sufficient enough to say that we anticipate a tax increase? Now that tax increase could be 5, could be 6, could be 1.
So the tax increase is different than this number. This is the growth in the
Right.
budget.
Right.
The growth in the average taxpayer bill is somewhat dependent on revenues and a bunch of other things. And
Revenues,
so
property
it's kind of
values,
premature
yeah.
to say what that would be yet.
Yeah. But what I
Right.
meant is, sorry, what I meant is, yeah, instead of giving a specific figure, which we don't know whether it will be true or not, we anticipate an increase
Yeah.
versus giving
I
a
think-
number which might.
Yeah.
Although I like the number because, again, I think there are taxpayers here who are like, yeah, level service funding 2%. And it's like, no, that's not what funding,
But can you get there if you say, will yield another increase like the past few years of
Maybe.
blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah?
yeah, maybe.
And then you would see, whoa, it was 5, oh, it was 7, oh, it was
Right.
Yeah.
6 or something.
Yeah.
I think the numbers I have are actual, the average single-family tax
Right.
increase numbers, but I'm sure we can.
No,
budget
yeah,
numbers.
yeah. I think it's the budget numbers that we should use, not the average single-family tax increase.
agreed.
Because
So
that's
easy
what
enough.
we can
And that's
project right
easy
now.
enough to find.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you would do that.
And if it's
the number that's
2036, I would go
somewhere
way
around
higher.
100-something million, right, that number?
Yeah.
The all-in budget.
The all-in budget,
But I did like that by 2036, our budget will only increase 6%.
right.
That would be really nice. If we
Right.
could slow it down to 6% over the next 12 years, that'd be
It
spectacular.
would be, we will, somebody will have done their job well.
Some miracle workers around here.
So you're saying this is supposed to be 26? Oh, no, I did it wrong again. Okay.
I mean, other than that, I don't think it needs to be much more extensive than that for a fall town meeting.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's,
mean, this
you
is
know-
just, we want to know that we're working on it or something.
Yeah, yep,
So increase like the past 3 budgets and then put the numbers here. And that does make more sense for us to be not predicting that. It's just, it feels that way right now. It's gonna,
Right.
there's no reason it wouldn't, I think, be significant. That's why Andrew said you can't find the $1 million somewhere. It is not hiding under a rock. And there's not some all of a sudden new company that moves to town that's gonna give us, 5 million extra in taxes or something.
that wouldn't change the budget anyway.
No.
Would just change the,
Yeah, but it would be the part that the people really care
That's
about,
what they
which
care
is how
about,
much
yeah.
they're paying.
right.
Good point, Gene. Okay. All right, so I will take feedback for the next couple days, and then we can go through it and vote. Generally, it's easier if you review it on your own time. Let's see, similarly are the comments on the articles. I did receive a comment that I'm working with Josh on for 2 articles. He voted against them. And one was the business zone, amend the business zone. And then the other that he wrote about, the landfill. He voted against that landfill having the attendance or whatever.
Anybody, on Rod, maybe you'll get me something on
Yep.
whatever you
I'll
want.
do that tomorrow.
And then I'll write up something about the B-Walt, and then I can distribute that later this week.
Do we all agree I don't need to put anything for a dissenting opinion on that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to write something up, or if somebody asks at the meeting, I'm happy to
I think it's fine.
explain.
Yeah.
But
Why did somebody vote again?
It's happened before.
It's kind of obvious. You didn't have that concern.
Yep.
It's sort of just, it's the because we're voting negative, the positive is sort of the
Right, yeah.
opposite of this.
Right.
I don't know. It's not a big deal. Okay, 2 sets, oh, I should go back to the agenda, because I think I'm skipping something, maybe. Approval of minutes. Okay, we have, pull up, now, here we go. We have draft minutes from September 23rd, which was the DPW meeting. Draft minutes from September 26th, which is the tri-board meeting. And if you are a real observant person, you'll notice that we skipped the 19th, which was accidental, and we will get the 19th at another date to vote. But she started ahead on the 23rd first. So we get a motion to approve minutes from the 23rd and 26th.
Motion to approve?
That was Rod Shafford for the record.
Sorry.
Bradley second.
And Bradley second. Okay. Any further discussion? You guys okay voting them as a block? Okay. All in favor of approving both set of minutes? That is 7. Nobody opposed, no one abstaining. 700. And I will tell them that those are approved. Okay. Let's go. Next would be our any liaison reports. Anybody liaising?
So the rec committee had its meeting, and they're now meeting in the space. It's a
Oh, cool.
fantastic space. They're giving tours as they go. Like literally, we're sitting in a large room and tours of people went by, and the reception has been very positive. They've had their first events in there, senior events in there, and the feedback from the seniors was universally in favor of the new environment. Exercises they used to be doing in sort of a darker, dingier library are now being done in a large open space with better lighting. So one of the areas that was talked about, it makes a ton of sense, that I don't think had been part of anybody else's considerations, is things like figuring out how you can improve some of the security of the area, because the folks, when people are downstairs at the building, you can't see who's at the door when people are ringing to get in. So there is some conversation about improving the security for the folks who are going to work there, because like at night, these are people who will be sitting at the end of a parking lot in a dark, long area, and to the extent you can make it safe, it's an excellent idea for the security of of the people who work hard. But very positive feedback for folks on the space, and a lot of ideas about how it's going to be used.
Nice. Somebody else? Guess you haven't had another meeting. Okay, we had the finance team meeting today. We spent a little time talking about both the articles. It appears that we don't have to rush ahead on the ARPA at this moment, because we've pretty much, it sounds like the government now that they've waited 3.5 years, has sort of potentially changing the definition of what it was considered to be approving those funds, which would be that the select board had approved the use of those funds and not necessarily under a contract. And further, we've appropriated it, enough of the original funds, and all that we have left could be considered the interest, which the government doesn't super care. But there still seemed interest to sort of wrap that stuff up this year. But I thought that might be coming kind of like really soon, because it's October now, and if you wanted to put things under contract by January 1st, that would have to. But it sounds like that definition's changed slightly. Probably because there's lots of towns that are way behind on doing that, I guess. And on the library, we are having a meeting tomorrow, and they are going to do a short presentation at town meeting of a status update. So I'll let that go. The plan is, there are bids out now for a replacement space, which I forget when they come back. But sometime later this month, I think, we get some bids and see what that's like. And go from there.
So I did make the recommendation at the municipal building committee that we consider the community center. I guess that's going to come before us at some point. As a potential
Yeah,
option.
I mean, so one option is to, you could put them in the empty space upstairs, you could put them downstairs and delay the moving of the senior center or something, I don't know. There's options there. I think an important number would probably be to have the cost, because the cost of moving the library includes moving in and out, the actual rental of whatever place you are, which would then become free, I guess, if it's a town. And then any fitting up stuff that you had to do, put in internet or whatever, and you'd hope that in the community center anyway, that stuff would be reusable.
Right.
So that wouldn't be so-called lost money. So I guess we'll see. I guess the danger to delay is it raises the price of construction, but it might mean you have a better definition of what you want to do too.
I was going to say that delay
Yeah.
may be coming anyhow.
Yeah, right. So that's possible. And I think they're looking for between 10 and 20,000 square feet for the temporary space.
Just curious, does everything have to be moved out for the renovation?
I don't know about everything, but I think a lot of stuff does.
Yeah, okay.
There'll be some stuff that they'll want, and that stuff will get moved.
Well,
And
sure,
I think
yeah,
there'll be some
obviously.
stuff that's sort of stored, but I think a couple of these places that they've started looking at, I think there's enough space there that you could use it as the storage place too, or something.
Yeah, so, but the plan is to move
Most of the stuff
basically
out.
every,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah, because they're talking about like downstairs, you can redo carpets and,
yeah, so you gotta move the stomachs and, yeah.
So I think the number for the library is something like between 1 and 9 or 1 and 12 books that are checked out of the library are checked out as a matter of people who put in a reservation for a book and come and get it. Like, that's not a bad way of saying we would move our high volume stuff into the place where people needed it. And the community center has areas that are undesignated at this point for the update because, this is part of the flexibility of what we're waiting for. So it seems to me that you could, with just a small stretch of what our existing business model is, move the highest volume stuff in there, kids stuff, because kids aren't necessarily putting in reservations, potentially, I don't know, but put in the stuff that, put in less stuff than the whole building, and it would just be available next day. Like, we would have somebody who could go in on a window and get stuff out, so.
yeah, makes sense. Okay. I guess no real future direct agendas. We got Thursday night to wrap stuff up, and then potentially another meeting, and then a final. So
I was going to say the SJC has heard the case today against the town of Milton with regards to the community space or the building space being made available around the commuter lines. We're one of the towns that passed the laws, and the read from the SJC was that there might be some room for communities not to adopt that law. I would love to hear from town council or Christie, like if indeed the law changes such that it is not enforceable, what does that mean to our considerations? Obviously, we've already done the work for it, but I would be grateful if we could start thinking ahead if there's a chance in the town's best interest to do something different.
This is the transit.
Correct. Yep.
Transit.
What, just curious, why do you think it would be in the town's best interest not to comply with what's there already?
So I'm not saying that so if what's there already is deemed illegal, then there's nothing there that we did it for. So we did it in alignment with the recommendations of the state. So liking the idea, is there something this town would do differently if it wasn't bound by what the state said and we still wanted to have the same objectives? I think that the purpose of it was worthwhile. I think the town did it because it's a good thing to do. But what would we have done differently if we hadn't had to follow the boilerplate from the state? So not besmirching the intent.
No, I was just curious.
No, of course.
And, discussion for another day.
Yeah, my general impression is that the planning board wants to do more stuff.
That's what I was going to say.
Not necessarily, within that exact zone, which is probably what they would say they would do more. I got the impression that the things we voted on were almost all already
done.
Yeah.
that zoning, and so you're just making it by right, and like where Arrive is, it's by right now to have multi-family high-density zoning or something, so, and so I think from what I heard is that they think there are other initiatives that should be done, but they're not necessarily within, what was it, a half mile of the train station,
Okay.
where it would make sense to do things, and that's all that law dealt with. But yeah, it's a perfectly good question. So you're saying that decision has come out, or it's being
It was just heard today, but
Oh.
based on the feedback from the Supreme Court, the questions that were asked, it wasn't even just about the law. It was the way that it was. Something about the way that the law was crafted was not done in the normal order of business. So it might be
And so-
technicalized. But.
So the other possibility is that it's things, and certain things get thrown out, and then the legislature comes back and does it in a way that it passes, so it may
Yep.
not. Okay, anyway, we'll wait probably to after town meeting for that one, but yeah. Probably should wait till the decision comes out and see type of thing.
Well, unless we start thinking about it. I mean, this is like us getting ahead of thinking about what the options could be. And people who are closer to it will know better than I'm.
I just think it's more of a planning board discussion than a AFC, because we're not being asked to recommend anything at the moment.
True.
It is
True.
interesting. But we certainly can ask. Doesn't hurt to ask. In fact, Christie will be here Thursday if you want to.
I got a lot of questions. Sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Okay.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's good. She asked
Christy,
to
you can come in. I just
We like that she's here. Okay, everybody else set? Motion to adjourn, someone?
Shafford, motion to adjourn.
Bradley second.
All in favor? None opposed? 700. Thank you, Westborough TV, and good night.